Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I hope you are doing great. Let's talk about countries that are starting to panic. While everybody was up in Davos this last week, or maybe it's still going on, I don't know. Maybe they're just taking their private jets and circling around the mountain just for fun, just so that they can shoot out some extra emissions and tell you what to do with your emissions. They're actually starting to freak out. Why? Because the facts are countries are starting to finally figure out that nuclear is green. And it's really making some people very, very sad and angry. Why? Because they started to put all this money into all this wind power and solar power, and they started to find out that the carbon footprint on nuclear is a little less than they thought it was. Fun fact here, one uranium pellet, the size, I don't know, about an inch, is equal to 17,000 cubic feet of natural gas, 120 gallons of oil, or 1 ton of coal. And there's a lot of groups that were so hating on nuclear for so many years, and all of a sudden they're starting to figure out that it's not as bad as it once was. Why? Because even the potential threats of having to store the spent uranium after it's being used for power is nothing compared to what's getting blown off in the air and all this other stuff by the other types of energy that's producing that energy, right? No, commodities that are producing that kind of energy. Come on, Ninja, it's early. You know what? Stand by. Need a little coffee. Okay, yep, that's good. So now you think about it. You not only have countries that are trying to go green and they're trying to force this narrative on everybody, but they also are starting to figure out, wait a minute, what is green? Well, I guess what really comes down to it, the least amount of impact for the energy it makes. And the facts are that nuclear can produce so much more energy abundantly and cheaper than all these other forms of fuel. So all these countries are starting to freak out. Now you add that with all the geopolitical threats around the world, like Russia and Ukraine war, China and Taiwan, and all these other countries that are starting to battle or they're starting these new trade alliances. You got to start thinking that all of a sudden things are about to change. They're going to change rapidly, right? So countries are vying for energy. They're trying to also vie for the actual raw materials that make that energy, all right? A lot of countries recently have been left in the dark. Now think Germany all of a sudden, because they all of a sudden lost alliances, key alliances with their pipeline of natural goods, in that case, natural gas. And all of a sudden they're going, man, we've got to actually get dependent on ourselves. We've got to become our own energy supplier, right? So there's all kinds of turmoil going on right now. So I got a story I wanted to read to you really quick. It's entitled Uranium, Converging Threats and Opportunities. This is out of Seeking Alpha. It says, who would have ever thought that even a year ago, Japan, Great Britain, Germany, and the United States would all be reconsidering nuclear energy? But that is precisely what has happened. Having reflected upon the severe lessons of Fukushima in the context of hydrocarbon prices, availability, and the mandate to address climate change, global warming, our friends across the Pacific have recently announced that they will be building up their nuclear energy capabilities. So too, on the other side of the Atlantic, where the UK is pursuing non-carbon energy in the form of small modular reactors, and Germany is backing away from its stance to decommission nukes in the wake of fuel supply concerns following Russia's attack on Ukraine, even absent those concerns. And here's a great quote. To reach net zero by 2050, the IEA says nuclear energy capacity will need to double. Think about that. They are starting to figure this out. They've got small reactors they're building, but they're also going from decommissioning nukes like they did in California to now building them up, building even more. That is an absolute change of events. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in the next couple of years as more and more of these countries wake up and start going, we need nuclear energy. This is an insane energy revolution that's happening right before your eyes, but it is not in the mainstream media. Check this out. I'm going to throw up a graphic right now, and I want you guys to check this out. Who is building nuclear reactors? If you look at this graphic, you can see right now that China is leading the pack, just crushing it on nuclear reactors. At the same time, you have India, Turkey, and South Korea trying to jump up to that, build those up. And then look at the United States, two US reactors under construction in Georgia and are expected to come online before 2023. But hey, at least they're doing something, right? So the fact of the matter is, these countries and even states in the United States are starting to figure out, oh wait, we actually can't produce enough electricity without using nuclear. So hey guys, real quick, I want to say, give a shout out to today's sponsor of the video, and that is Traction Uranium. You'll find them on the Canadian Stock Exchange under the ticker TRAC, and the OTC Stock Exchange in America under the ticker TRCTF. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but let's dive into some more statistics because I think this is absolutely insane. So now look, I'm going to show you guys a chart of Russia, how much they are producing or looking to produce in uranium. Look at the chart here and you could see a steady amount of uranium production going on in that country. You fast forward over to China and you could see China's stats are growing, right? They're getting it. Like you saw in the last graphic, you saw that they have a ton of nuclear reactors, which means they need a ton of uranium, right? Now let's switch over to the United States. How are we doing? Facts are, US uranium production is falling off of a cliff, but that's about to change. Why? Because the United States is going to go from a leader to a follower. Where they were leading countries in all kinds of technologies, they are starting to follow countries in uranium production and uranium usage, i.e., building nuclear reactors. We already see that nuclear reactors have been put into US carriers and other forms of military equipment to energize them for so much longer than running them off of other forms of energy. So the facts are, the US knows that nuclear is the way to go. It's just they've been fighting it. So I'm trying to get ahead of the curve. Let's talk about today's sponsor, and that is Traction Uranium. And I want to tell you a bunch of cool stuff about it, but I need some notes. I'm not that bright, and I need some help. Editor, are you around here? I don't know where you are. Can I get some okay, please give me some notes.
Okay, fine. Here you go.
Really?
A few minutes later.
All right, I think I got enough here. Let's see what we got going on here. All right, let's talk about just a little bit about the world demand for uranium and how it is predicted to continue to be in a shortfall. That's been the story the last couple of years, that uranium production is not keeping up with the needs of not only current usage, but what's the expected usage. Like you saw, China is working on so many nuclear reactors right now to power its country. So are other countries. They're going to need uranium in the future, right? And uranium prices just keep going up. So now let's talk about Traction. Bowen Tan, the company's technical advisor, was instrumental in the 1975 discovery of the Key Lake uranium deposit in Saskatchewan. As the chief geologist, he was in charge of the delineation, drilling of the deposit with reserves of 200 million pounds. Cameo Key Lake was the third largest uranium deposit in the Athabasca Basin and is home to the largest uranium mill in the world. Traction's Key Lake South project is only 5 kilometers away from that mill. The Athabasca Basin is known as the world's leading source of high-grade uranium, with about 20 times average the international purity. And to give you an idea, I believe the average grades of uranium found around the world is sitting at about 0.2% purity. Athabasca region comes in around 2%. So that's, I believe, a 10x over the average. Now, let's talk about who owns the company. So right now, approximately 55% of the stock is held by its founders and strategic partners. On top of that, an additional 30% is owned by Sprott Capital, Canaccord, and other large institutional investors. So I like that. I like that it's held that tightly, which means there's just a certain amount out there for retail investors. But the facts are the facts. Uranium is blowing up in need and desire. For me, the biggest key takeaway with the uranium story is this. As countries are talking about, solar energy and wind energy and all that kind of stuff and how great it is, the facts are they're building nuclear reactors right now around the country, around the world. The US, like we said, only has 2 being built right now. But looking at China, India, Turkey, and other countries that are out there building nuclear reactors, and they're going to be able to provide more energy at a less cost to their people. Once that news gets around, you are going to see other countries jumping in because their citizens are going to start to demand cheaper energy as well. The fact is, this is happening underneath your nose right now. And are you going to be a part of uranium before that news hits America or Canada, or are you going to wait until afterwards? The facts are the price of uranium is not getting any cheaper. Why? because countries want it and they need it. Guys, I thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much to everybody that supports this channel. I couldn't do it without you, and I want to say thank you to Traction Uranium for supporting this video, sponsoring this video, because it really does mean a lot to me so I can keep coming out and giving you guys the news. All right, guys, that being said, the Economic Ninja is out.